Okay, so now that it is spring, I wanted to switch up my everyday makeup drawer, the products that I tend to reach for the most often. I'm definitely someone who likes to change things up seasonally depending on the time of year, the weather. So this is everything I'll really be focusing on for like the next 3 months. I haven't really switched it up since January. So I'm excited to have some different products to play around with. If you've never seen one of these videos on my channel, this is just like the top section of my makeup storage. And I like to put in products that I want to intentionally use over the next few months and products that I'm really loving. So I have a mix. I mainly have older products in here, and then I have a couple of new things I've really been enjoying. So I'll go through everything, just kind of share my thoughts on the products, swatch everything. It's basically just like a makeup and chat video. I am in the process of growing my natural nails back out. I miss wearing press-ons so much, but I have to let my natural nails grow back out. So I painted them last night, kind of in a rush, and this one keeps breaking, so they're not looking the greatest, but if you have any nail favorites, I got some recommendations on a recent video. Please let me know because this summer, I think I'm just going to stick with natural nails. Okay, so I just got this product in the mail. I'm not sure if I'm actually going to keep it with my makeup or if I'm going to move it to my skincare. Today, I mixed it in with my moisturizer and I really like how it worked, but I kind of want to try mixing it with my foundation as well, especially a few of my foundations that are a little bit too light right now. So these are the new bronzing drops from e.l.f. I have the pure gold shade. So I'll show you what this looks like. They do recommend mixing it, and it's been a little while since I've tried the Drunk Elephant bronzing drops, but based on what I remember and just like my initial impressions of the e.l.f. bronzing drops, these are definitely more pigmented. Like I said, mixed them with my moisturizer today, and I feel like they didn't look as streaky as the Drunk Elephant ones did on me. The e.l.f. ones come in 3 different shades. This is pure gold, but wow, they look so beautiful, very smooth, very glowy. Today I mixed them into the Glow Recipe Plum Hyaluronic Acid Moisturizer, which is already pretty glowy on its own, and it just gave my skin like a very healthy glow. I'm not generally like a big bronzer drop fan. I guess I'm not opposed to trying them. It's just not something that I always feel like is necessary in my routine. But this formula feels a little bit nicer than other formulas I've tried. So again, I kind of want to mix this into my foundations and see how that goes. And then I'll kind of decide if I want to use it in skincare and foundation. I'll definitely keep you posted, but I'm just in the process of testing these out. Actually, before I talk about the other primers, I also purchased this product from e.l.f. This is their Power Grip Dewy Setting Spray. At first, I thought it might be a good dupe for the Milk Makeup Hydro Grip, but just looking at the product in the bottle, it looks different. I feel like this is going to be glowier on the skin, and the Milk Makeup Hydro Grip might be a little bit more subtle. But again, I want to try this out as both a primer and a setting spray, and I'll let you know if it is a good alternative because I pretty much use that Milk Makeup Hydro Grip spray every single day as a primer. When I placed the order for those products, I also repurchased the e.l.f. Liquid Poreless Putty Primer. This is my favorite primer when I want my skin to look extra smooth, but also when I want my makeup to stay in place really well. It is a matte primer, like it definitely leaves my skin looking matte, but it also seems to extend the wear of my makeup in a way that a lot of other smoothing, mattifying primers don't. I just like to swatch everything so you can see the texture of the products, but this is very lightweight. I actually used my other one up fully and fairly quickly. I forget exactly when it launched, but I love this product so much, and I do feel like it will be a really nice option for the spring and especially for the summertime, like on those really hot, humid days. Okay, last e.l.f. product for now, but this is the Power Grip with niacinamide. This is a really beautiful primer when I want a very glowy look, which might not always be my favorite during the summer, but it's still spring. It's still kind of cold out. Like it's 50 degrees today, but we've had some days in like the 40s. So I definitely need something on the more hydrating side for those really cold days. And again, I feel like even on hot days, sometimes you just want that glowy look, but you want your makeup to stay in place. And when that's the case, this is the primer that I'll reach for. It is a little bit of a thicker primer, but I'm telling you, your makeup will not go anywhere. Every time I use this primer, I feel like it makes my makeup look so good. This is the KVD Lock It Primer. It's been a little while since I've used this regularly, so I wanted to put this in my drawer so I could get more use out of it. It's pretty similar to the e.l.f. primer. I wouldn't say the textures are exactly alike, but I feel like I would use them in a similar way. Like on days where I want a very smooth, kind of like soft matte finish, that's when I would reach for this type of primer too. This also feels very similar to the Cali Ray primer, which I just used up. So again, I put this in my drawer with the intention of actually using it a little bit more often. Okay, last primer, this is from NYX. It's their new blur screen. So it's their blurring primer sunscreen SPF 30. At first, I thought this might be a good alternative to the Kosa sunscreen, which I do like to use as like a sunscreen primer all in one. It's definitely not the same at all. This does leave your skin looking glowy, but it's more of a subtle glow. I had a few of you ask me if it was similar to the e.l.f. glowy sunscreen. This one is definitely less intense. You can see it just gives your skin like a little bit of a glow. It definitely has a nice, soft, smooth finish, but it doesn't feel super matte. Okay, as far as foundation, I took the Catrice foundation out of my drawer so I could focus on a few other options. I'll swatch them all after I show you them. So this one is the Smashbox Always On Skin Balancing Foundation. I have the shade F30N. I think it's a little bit yellow for me. I think it might be a little bit too light as well. I have worn it a couple of times and I do really like it, but it hasn't quite become like my number one. So I want to give it a little bit more of a chance, especially now that it's spring. I find that it feels really light on the skin and it does last well. So I kind of want to try it with a couple of different primers and just test it out a little bit more. This is the Fenty Eaze Drop Blurring Skin Tint in the shade 3. It's very lightweight, it has pretty good coverage, and definitely more of a matte finish, so I do enjoy that. On days where I want like really, really light natural coverage, I reach for this product from Typology. This is their Tinted Serum, and I have the shade 1. And then I also have the Tinted Serum from Catrice. This I would actually describe as more of like a medium coverage foundation rather than a tinted serum. So let me swatch these in order of coverage. Okay, so all the way on the left is the Typology Tinted Serum in the shade 1. This is the most natural. This one is the Fenty Eaze Drops in the shade 3, which is definitely the most matte out of all of them. This is the Catrice Tinted Serum in the shade 10N, which does dry down to look pretty matte for something that's kind of marketed as a serum. I would say if you want more of a hydrating serum, definitely go with Typology, but I do like this because it does have pretty good coverage. You can build it up to look more like a medium coverage foundation. And then over here on the right is the Smashbox Skin Balancing Foundation, and I always forget the shade, F30N. I like the finish of it. I think it looks really pretty, so I'm excited to wear that a little bit more. As for concealer, I do have two that I've been using quite a bit. I feel like these will be perfect for the spring. So I have the Tower 28 Serum Concealer in the shade DTLA, and then the Catrice True Skin Concealer in the shade Cool Cashmere. These are very, very similar. I'll swatch them in just a second. And then I did put the NYX Bear With Me Concealer in here. This one is in the shade Vanilla. I haven't used this in a while. I can't even remember the last time I picked it up. So I wanted to put this one in here and really focus on using it over the next few months. I feel like it will be a good option for the spring. So let me swatch them and show you what they look like. This one is Tower 28 in DTLA, and then this one is the Catrice True Skin in the shade Cool Cashmere. I find the formulas to be very, very similar. Tower 28's maybe a little bit thinner, but they definitely have very similar coverage. So if you're looking for a good hydrating concealer that blends out well, stays in place pretty well, has like a nice good glowy finish, but you don't want to spend the money on Tower 28, definitely try the Catrice one. And then over here is the NYX Bear With Me Concealer in the shade Vanilla. Again, after swatching it, I'm really excited to use it again. I feel like I don't reach for it naturally just because it doesn't come in like the typical concealer type packaging with a wand. You have to actually like pump it out, and I always end up pumping just like a little bit too much, so I feel like I waste it, but I should just deal with that because it really is so gorgeous on the skin, and I'm excited to wear it again. I actually don't have a lot of powders in my drawer right now. I have the Charlotte Tilbury powder. This is just the Airbrush Flawless Finish powder. I did repurchase the Flower Beauty one, which I think is pretty similar to Charlotte Tilbury. The Flower Beauty one hasn't come in yet. Once it does, I'll probably put it in my drawer too. And then I haven't used the Colé powder in a little while. I've been using kind of like some heavier, more mattifying powders lately, but I feel like this is so perfect for the spring because it's just so lightweight, just very natural, really soft and smoothing on the skin. So I thought I would put that in my drawer too. And then I'm using the Huda Beauty powder a lot lately. This one just locks your makeup into place so well. It is like my #1 powder of all time. I do think this one, compared to other powders, can maybe look a little bit heavy on the skin if you use too much, but it really just locks everything in so, so well. I haven't found anything that works quite like this one, so I'm back to using it pretty regularly. Okay, moving on to cheek products, I had to stop myself from adding like twice as many. During the Sephora savings event, I did purchase the LYS Beauty No Limits Cream Bronzer in the shade Hope, which is a new shade. They added 2 new bronzer shades. One, I think is like a medium deep, and then this one is described as a fair. I have Motivate, which was their lightest shade before Hope, so I thought I would just swatch them next to each other just in case you're curious about the difference. Okay, so this one is Hope, this one is Motivate. I do like Motivate on my skin tone. I was hoping that Hope would be slightly less orangey or slightly less warm toned, which actually it does look like that. This one still works for me, but I just feel like this will be perfect. A lot of my cream bronzers just pull a little bit too orangey for me, so I can't wait to wear that one. Actually, let me swatch the other cream bronzers I've been using next to it just so you can see. This is the Milani Cheek Kiss Cream Bronzer in the shade Hey Honey, which again just pulls slightly orangey. I feel like once the rest of my makeup is in place, even if the cream bronzer is a little bit orange, it's fine. But ideally, it's nice to go in with a shade that you really love initially. This is the Makeup Revolution Ultra Cream Bronzer in the shade Light. I just repurchased this because, or I had repurchased it a little while ago, but I just opened it because I used mine up. So again, this one is LYS Beauty and Hope, Motivate, and then this is the Milani Cheek Kiss Cream Bronzer in the shade Hey Honey, and this one is Makeup Revolution in Light. So there's the 4 shades next to each other just for reference. I do have 2 of the NYX Buttermelt bronzers. I kind of go back and forth between these two. So this one is the 2nd shade, this one is the 3rd shade. The 2nd one is called All Buttered Up, which is a light medium warm. And then the 3rd one is Deserve Butter, which is light medium neutral. A bunch of you told me you saw these in Ulta, like in the actual stores. So I do recommend checking these out in person because they look a lot different in person than they do online. But this is my favorite powder bronzer formula I've tried in years. Oh wow. Okay, so with this lighting setup, you can really see the glow. Sometimes it's hard to tell when I'm filming like talking to the camera, but I usually try to set my lights up in a way that when I move my hand, you can actually see like the texture, the finish, because sometimes it's hard to convey that on camera. So here's shade 2, here's 3. 2, like I said, it's a little bit rosier. This one is more of like a neutral, slightly warmer bronzer, but this is like the creamiest powder bronzer. I don't know if it's like the creamiest I've ever tried. Probably is. I could see this becoming like my #1 favorite because it just applies really well. So I'm a big fan of this formula. I have the new Patrick Ta duo that I bought a few weeks ago in Not Too Much. I wanted to swatch it for you next to She's Blushing, which does look pretty similar. That's the shade or the duo that most people are comparing it to. So on the left is Not Too Much, and then on the right is She's Blushing. I think they look more similar in the pan than they do on the skin. Okay, sorry, not my best swatches, but you'll get the point. So on the left is Not Too Much. This one is She's Blushing. You can tell this one definitely has more pigment. This one's a little bit softer. This is a little bit pinkier. This cream is more red toned and this blush is maybe slightly peachier. So I personally love this on my skin tone. If you have a similar skin tone to me, I feel like you might like this a little bit more unless you tend to prefer more pigment when it comes to your blushes. But they're both gorgeous duos. I just think they actually do look quite a bit different once applied to the skin. I did get 2 of the new Rare Beauty blushes during the Sephora sale, so I haven't filmed my video testing out a lot of those new products yet because I was sick and then I just didn't want to film that video while I wasn't feeling well. So that should be up soon because I'm going to try the products I got during the Sephora sale and then like a couple of new drugstore launches too. But I did actually try the Sephora or the Rare Beauty blushes. I wore them once. I think I wore the shade Cheer and I actually really like how it looked on the skin. I wasn't sure because these were getting such mixed reviews and I do have textured skin, so I was like, oh, it's probably not going to be ideal for me after watching some reviews, but I love a good glowy blush and this is perfect if you love like a subtle blush too, like a subtle amount of color. I also got the shade Hope too, so on the left is Cheer. I haven't worn Hope, I did wear Cheer. It looked so pretty. It definitely was very soft, very light, and I think based on reviews I've seen, when you try to build these up and layer like a lot on the skin to get more color, that's when they start to look like a little bit too intense, maybe enhance texture a little bit more than if you just use a light layer. I personally love a good subtle blush, so I feel like these are my personal preference. Like they're perfect because they are glowy, they're very light. I mean, like that's 3 layers of the blush swatched. Sorry, I leaned my hand on something, so there's like a weird dent on it, but this is the shade Sheer. It is so gorgeous. Again, in this light, you can really see the glow. I personally like the shade Sheer better than Hope, I just think it's like the perfect blush lighter. Like it just looks beautiful and I can't wait to wear it even more. I could definitely see how these wouldn't be for everyone though. I was really curious to know if they were the same exact formula as the highlighters. I love the highlighters so much. This is the shade Mesmerize, which is kind of like a pinky toned highlighter. After like swatching them and just kind of playing with the texture a little bit more, they are similar, but I almost think the highlighters are a little bit creamier. Here's the shade Mesmerize, but they definitely have a very, very similar finish. And then this one is in the shade Exhilarate. The highlighters have all broken on me, every single one of them. I have 3, and the other one, like the icy highlighter, broke the worst. I only have like a tiny bit of that left. So I assume the blushes are going to be the exact same. That's the shade Exhilarate. I use that as eyeshadow all the time. And every time I wear that as eyeshadow, I get so many comments asking me like, what's that glowy, really pretty shade all over the lid? It's always this. I think this shade would be so pretty as eyeshadow too. So I feel like you have to be into a very glowy blush to be a fan of these, which is definitely one of my favorite looks. But I've also heard, I don't know, some people said that they saw a video where they were talking about them and they actually created them to go over the liquid blushes, which could be really pretty too. So I threw in 2 of the Rare Beauty liquid blushes and then 2 of the e.l.f. liquid blushes. So I have the Rare Beauty blush in the shade Hope as well, but I'm going to layer it on top just to see how they look together. Yeah, it definitely looks pretty. Like sometimes the liquid blushes, I want a little bit more of a glow. So this could be a really good option for those days. And then I do have 2 of the e.l.f. Camo liquid blushes. So I have Peach Perfect and then Suave Mauve. This one is Peach Perfect. So let me swatch these. Here's Peach Perfect and then here's Suave Mauve. I feel like with a little bit more, it will basically look like Rare Beauty and Encourage. And then this one is maybe slightly more peach toned than the shade Hope, but it's pretty similar. I love the e.l.f. blushes. I think they look really pretty on the skin. They're very smooth, super easy to work with. Honestly, I find them basically an identical dupe. I don't really notice a big difference, especially once they're on the skin. So if you want to try a good liquid blush from the drugstore, I do recommend these. Last thing I have in this section are just 2 of the Essence Baked Blushes. So I have Pretty Peach and Rosy Rosewood. Pretty Peach is definitely my most worn shade. It's just like the perfect go-to everyday blush. Rosy Rosewood is a little bit deeper than what I typically go for, but I feel like it's fun on days where I want more of a vibrant look. I think I have every single one of these and I just love them. They look so good on the skin. They definitely have like that nice natural glow without being over the top. So I feel like they are perfect for the spring. On the left is Peach Perfect, and then on the right is Rosy Rosewood. Those are pretty light swatches. These do tend to be a little bit lighter and softer on the skin. You can build them up to some extent, but again, very similar to the Rare Beauty blushes. They're going to end up looking a little bit more natural overall, although they do have some deeper shades than this one if you do want a darker color. Okay, as for eyeshadow, I do want to make it a goal to maybe wear some more colorful tones during the spring. And I feel like pinks and purples are kind of fun to do. So I did put this palette in here. This is my least worn Huda Beauty palette. This one is in Rose Quartz. I haven't been able to bring myself to declutter it because it is such a gorgeous palette. And it's the type of product that I want to like more than I actually do. So this is like the only colorful palette I have in my drawer right now because I'm going to use it at least once a week to create a look. It really is such a good mix between like neutrals, cooler toned metallics, some pinks, some purples. And for whatever reason, I just haven't reached for it super regularly since I've had it. So it is time to really put this one to the test and see if I can show it a lot of love throughout the spring. I also have the Natasha Denona I Need a Nude because this is my favorite palette of all time. It is perfect for like a quick, easy, cool toned smoky eye. I always take one of these shades as a transition, or no, this shade or this shade as a transition, and then I'll take this shade in the crease. If I want it to look a little bit more dramatic, I'll take the brown in the outer corner. And then honestly, like any shimmer all over the lid works really well. I wore this one the other day all over the lid. Sometimes I'll take like this shade and then add this one on top. I might top it off with this. I can't get enough of this palette. So I always have to have this on hand. Another staple for me is this little quad from e.l.f. I use this all the time. I always pair it with whatever palette I'm using because I feel like whatever palette I'm using is missing one of my staple shadows. And these are all 4 shades I use all the time. So I have this one in here. Okay, during the sale, I did purchase the Patrick Ta Major Dimension 3, which is the fully matte palette. So I thought I would throw in Major Dimension 1 and Major Dimension 2 into my drawer so I could either use them on their own or alongside of the third one once I actually try it out. This is Major Dimension 1. This is one of my favorites for like the spring and the summer because if I want like a very light, soft look, I always reach for these 6 shadows. I like the color story of Major Dimension 2 a little bit more, but I don't use this one quite as often as Major Dimension 1. But when I want like a very beautiful, like pink toned look, this is the one I reach for. As for single shadows, I took out like all of the ColourPop Super Shock shadows just to kind of switch it up, except for the shade Ritz. I love using this with my Natasha Denona I Need a Nude. I think it looks amazing on top of the shadows in there. And then I do have 2 of the Urban Decay Moon Dust shadows. So I have the shade Space Cowboy, and then I also have Cosmic. So this is ColourPop Ritz. This is Urban Decay Space Cowboy, which is this shade right here. And then this one is Urban Decay Cosmic, which I just got this one a few months ago, and I love it. Again, both of these are really gorgeous paired with the Natasha Denona palette as well. So I've said this before, a lot of people say Ritz is a dupe for Urban Decay Space Cowboy. They obviously look very similar, but I think Ritz is so much better. Like you can tell, it's a little bit more sparkly because it is like a creamed powder shadow. It looks so smooth on the eyes, and you can even layer this up to look more intense. I just think it's really good. And then Cosmic has been so much fun because if my look is getting like a little bit too dark and dramatic, if I layer this on top, it just brightens everything up so nicely. I do have a bunch of liquid shadows in my makeup collection, which I do want to get more use out of. I thought I would just start with these 2. These are the NYX Ultimate Glow Shots. So I have the lighter pink one is Grapefruit Glow, and then this one is Wow Cacao. I think these are so nice. They definitely look very glowy on the eyes. They're great for like quick looks if I just blend like a bronzer in the crease and I don't want to take the time to do actual eyeshadow. These are really nice. You can obviously use them alongside of shadow too if you want to like layer them as a finishing step. But I do love both of these shades. And then I have the KVD Dazzle Stick in the shade Hail Surge, which these had a viral moment years ago, and I still use mine all the time. Like it is the most beautiful cream shadow. It's so stunning. I do have quite a few mascaras that are currently open. So right now I'm really loving the Essence Lash Without Limits. This one is their Extreme Volume and Lengthening Mascara. I did buy it in brown, but I want to either finish like 1 or 2 of the mascaras I already have open before using it, or maybe just finish using this one up. This looks so dramatic, really beautiful on the lashes. It definitely gives a ton of length and pretty good volume too. So I've really been loving that one. And then I have the Milani Highly Rated Anti-Gravity. This one is actually in the brown black shade. I don't really find it to be much different than the black. It's maybe a little bit softer, but you can't really tell on the lashes. So I wanted to try this because I was on like a big brown mascara kick, and I do still like brown, but there are other alternatives I like better. But the actual formula is great. It probably gives a little bit more volume than the Essence, but still gives a ton of length. This one has a tendency to look slightly more clumpy than Essence though. So I find that this one's really great at separating. I just repurchased the Tower 28 mascara, which is just like my all-around favorite. It does such a great job of lifting and adding volume. The One Size Fantasize mascara is something that I tried fairly recently, and I do love this. This makes your lashes look so good. Really dramatic. This is incredibly long lasting, like no flaking or smudging, and it's actually even kind of difficult to remove at the end of the night. But if you're looking for a true long wearing mascara that looks really good and just really dramatic on the lashes, this one's a great option. I had a ton of you leave comments saying like this is your favorite because even if you have like a really long day or you're really prone to mascaras like flaking and smudging, this one will last for you. And then I have the Bubble Rudy Berry Chocolate Dipped Tubing Mascara, which I've been loving. I really like a good tubing mascara, but I find that some of them don't layer very well. This one actually does layer really well. It also has a really pretty, just like chocolatey brown tone. You can tell on the lashes that it's not a black. It still looks dramatic, but it's definitely softer. So I cannot get enough of this one. I think the wand is perfect. It looks great on my lashes. It stays in place well, and it definitely comes off like a tubing mascara too. So I think this is a great option if you're looking for a good brown mascara and you want a tubing formula. And then I have the One Size Point Made Waterproof Liquid Eyeliner, which is what I've been using on days where I do a wing. I really like this. It has like a very long tip. It's a felt tip applicator. So you can get a really thick line, but you can also get like a very thin line and it stays in place really, really well. And then I have the Glossier Boy Brow Brow Gel, which is what I'm currently using just to kind of fill in my brows and lock them into place. Okay, I condensed my lip products down to one container. I normally have two, but that's just too many. I feel like other products kind of make their way into my drawer throughout the months, and then before I know it, it's just like overflowing with lip products. So I wanted to actually focus on certain formulas, so I had to just kind of narrow it down. I don't have any lipsticks in here. They're all like glossy products. So I have the Patrick Ta lip gloss in the shade Full Syringe, which is the prettiest red. It looks intense in the packaging, but on the lips, it's like this really beautiful, just like sheer, juicy red. It looks better on the lips than it does on the hand because on the hand, it doesn't look like it has a ton of color, but on the lips, it gives you like this sheer, perfect wash of color. It's so gorgeous. This is the Essence Lip Oil. I did order the other two shades. This one is in Pink Champagne. So a lot of you have been asking me if this has a scent. I originally said it didn't, but I did have a cold, so I feel like that was probably influencing me. It has a little bit of a scent. I don't know, it's maybe like slightly vanilla, slightly floral. I can't smell it when it's on the lips at all. And I wear this lip oil a ton, like almost every single day. So you can notice it if you're actually looking for it, but on the lips, I personally don't smell anything. So it's there, it's just very, very subtle. These are from Colé. These are the lip treatment oils I've smitten and excellence. I did get a set during the Sephora sale that has like a really pretty pink in it. So that will probably go in here too. But these are great if I want my gloss to stay in place. This one is Smitten and this one is Excellence. They're a little bit sticky, so if you don't like a sticky formula, definitely avoid them, but they're pretty long lasting, incredibly hydrating, just so shiny and smooth. These are the Tower 28 Lip Softies. I swatched them all. This one is just the clear. I'm missing one. I think just one. I have a berry toned one too. And then they actually just came out with a new one for like their birthday celebration. I think it's confetti cake. These are really nice, very comfortable, very glossy. They're like the perfect mixture between a gloss and a balm. Very similar to Summer Fridays. It's just the applicator that's a little bit different, but I do find the formula is close. This is what the applicator looks like. It's not my personal favorite. It's just like a rounded plastic tip. But the actual formula is great. These do have a strong scent. They're really nice. They smell like whatever they are. Like this one is blood orange vanilla. This one is watermelon kiwi. So I do enjoy these a lot. I think they're great for every day, but like some have a little more pigment. So they're really fun if you want pop of color too. These are the Milk Makeup Odyssey Lip Gloss Oils, which I love. They're very comfortable. Again, great for every day because they're like a lip gloss, lip oil mix. So very nourishing, really shiny and smooth. They're not very long lasting, so it is the type of product that you'll have to reapply, and they're pretty sheer overall, but I think they're really comfortable and great for throwing on before you run out the door. This one is Quest, this one is Work Trip, and then this one is Voyage. Quest is definitely my favorite. It's like the perfect everyday nude, but I also like Voyage. It's not great on its own. Like I don't prefer it on its own just because it does end up looking a little bit streaky, but I love using it over like a nude lipstick or a nude lip liner because once you really like blend it into the lips, it just adds like the perfect cooler toned touch. I have a couple of the Tarte Maracuja Juicy Lips. I've really been loving these lately. They're very comfortable, very glossy and smooth, and I think they stay in place pretty well. If I'm not wearing them with a liner, they do have a tendency to kind of travel outside my lip line, but because they're sheer, I feel like they're just easy to use. This one is White Peach, this one is Ginger, this one is Poppy, and then the sticker came off. I think this one is like, I want to say it's like Blackberry. They're all part of the plumping line except for this one. This one's part of the main, just like the regular Maracuja Juicy Lip line. And I think this one might have been a holiday limited edition one. My current favorite is definitely Poppy, which it looks amazing on the lips over like a coral liner. It just gives you like the perfect pop of pink. But again, these are great on their own or over lipstick or liner. These are kind of similar. These are from Hourglass. I think they're called like the Phantom Glossy Balms. I usually splurge on these. If I have Ulta points, I might add one to my cart, or I think I got one on sale during like some sort of Ulta sale too. This one is Trace, this one is Desire, and then this one is Thrill. So I really blended these out. On the lips, you can definitely get more pigment if you just lightly layer them up. It's not hard to layer them up at all. I think that's where they're different than Tarte. Like, let me just take one. So this one is Thrill. With Tarte, if you apply more, you don't necessarily get like a lot more pigment. You just get more of that glossy layer. And I don't know, I guess that's kind of the same case with these two. There is just a difference. I feel like they're slightly glossier and they're not like as thick. They're a little bit thinner. I don't know. They feel a little bit more luxury. Like they do feel slightly nicer on the lips. I wouldn't say you have to run out and buy these over Tarte. Like a lot of these glossy sticks are so similar, but I do like having a couple of them on hand. I probably won't go and like collect the entire range by any means. Originally, I just kind of wanted to test them out, and now I do think they are nice. So if there's a shade I really want, like I said, I'll buy it if there's a sale or I have points or something like that, but Tarte, very, very similar. And then the last thing I have in here are the e.l.f. Pout Clout Lip Plumping Pens. They're all in like the nude family. I kind of want to pick up a berry because I did see someone using these on TikTok and the darker shades looked really pretty. They were, I think it was pretty sheer, but it just looked nice. These, I just talked about these in a recent video. These are pretty thick. They definitely have more of a lipstick feel. And again, I'm just kind of blending them in because that's the way I wear them on the lips. I don't just like layer them and then leave it. I usually will just kind of like apply a little bit and then blend it in. This one is just peachy, this one is toasted, and then this one is pinky out. So you can see these definitely have a nice glow to them, but these feel more lipstick-like compared to the other formulas I was just showing you. They're very comfortable, they stay in place well, they have like a little bit of a stick to them, so I do think they're long-lasting. So on days where I want my lip product to stay in place and I don't necessarily care about just like the glossy, balmy feel, I might reach for these because they do give you that glossy look, but they last. If you layer too much, they can have a tendency to look a little bit streaky and uneven. So again, like with any of these products, I just usually start with a small amount and then blend it in with my finger, and then I might add a little bit more. But I think that is it for today's video. I think I might start doing a look on my channel using the products from my everyday makeup drawer. Like naturally, you'll see these products in my videos over the next few months, but I think maybe next week I'll film one just focusing on a lot of these products. So stay tuned for that. Thanks for being here. I really appreciate it. I will see you very soon with a new one. Bye.